Hello, everyone, and welcome to Creating Sanctuaries. We are all currently in the same boat. Programming is piling up, we're planning for our teams. But instead of just powering through, I thought it would be a nice opportunity for us to all take a breath. Welcome to the Leadership Reset. I wanted to explore what a soft reset looks like for leaders right now. And I couldn't think of anyone better to chat with than Aaron Johnston, whereas you might know him as Mr. J. So,
Hey, Steffi.
hey, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Aaron is a deputy principal on Wonnarua Country and the creator of Mr. J's Learning Space. With nearly 2 decades of experience, he's a massive advocate for Aboriginal education, work for which he was recognized as the 2024 Primary Educator of the Year. When he isn't supporting students or raising his two beautiful daughters, he's hosting the Teacher Takeaway podcast. Thanks for joining us, Aaron.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here and chat all things leadership.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that both you and I on social media we're in this kind of similar headspace around, resetting for the year and supporting leaders and how do we best support teachers. So I thought, let's have a conversation about it. And I know you've got so much wisdom to share with leaders and schools that I work with.
Well, I hope so. I hope there'll be something that someone can take away from this conversation.
For sure, for sure. So the first question I'd love to ask you is, what kind of leader do you want to be this year, and why is that important to you?
Um, well, I don't think it's really changed for me in the kind of leader I want to be. It's just staying focused on being that leader who creates a place where staff feel safe and supported, that, they're approachable. I always say, that my door is open, and I want people to take that up, that they can come and they can talk and they can be honest. And, there's tissues if we need tissues, and there's no judgment. And I think for me, that's the kind of leader I've always wanted to be. And I haven't steered away from that, I hope, but it's about being intentional, because it's really hard work in building those relationships, maintaining them, because that's the biggest thing about the work that we do. It's enough. It's not enough for me to just say, "Oh yeah, I know Steffi." Like, I've continually got to be inputting into that relationship with Steffi.
Mm,
I can't just do a set and forget. Like, oh yeah, I know Steffi. I know she's got a daughter. I know she's married. That's it. We know each other. It's that ongoing work of just every single day showing up, creating that environment where people feel safe and supported. And that's the kind of leader I want to be. And I think for me, that's important because when I was particularly in my early years of teaching, the principal that I worked for created that place. And I really feel like in my early years, like, I flourished and I grew. Those early years are hard, but I look back on them and I don't remember ever feeling like it was a struggle. And I think it was because I was in a school where we just felt safe and supported, and relationships were the biggest key. I could
mm.
always go to my principal with anything, and there was no judgment, no fear. And I think that's why that's so important for me.
I love how you've focused on, that safe environment and keeping relationships with teachers, not
Mm.
just knowing, a little bit about your teachers and going off that. Um, I just want to ask for busy leaders who will have emergencies and fires kind of popping up. How do you keep relationship and stay connected with teachers, creating that safe space when things get hectic?
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens, right? It is hectic. And so I think, some important things to do is, after those things happen, debriefing and talking it through.
Mm,
And I think one thing that helps in keeping the relationships, in a great place, is talking through how and why. Because, in all honesty, there are times when I have to make decisions and people do not like them,
mm,
or it's not the decision that they want, or they don't think the situation was handled well. But it's having those conversations and talking that out and coming from a place of, well, this is the why, and this is
mm.
the reason why I did it. And also acknowledging to, I did make a bad call and I'm really sorry for that, and being in that vulnerable place as a leader. But I think school days are really busy, like so busy.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've really tried to be more intentional about is just taking those little moments to stop. Like, for instance, go into the staff room, sit down and have my lunch, even if it's for 15 minutes
Yeah.
when other staff are there. Yep, it's busy and it's crazy and there's always things to do. And sometimes emergencies happen and I don't do it. But that short little 15 minutes sitting at the table, talking with our teachers amongst the chaos is a really good relationship builder.
Mm.
But it also models for teachers and for our teams that it's important to stop, that I'm prioritizing, you know, stopping, taking a breath, having lunch, because it's so easy for all of us, no matter what role we're in, to get to school at whatever time and just go nonstop. Don't eat, don't go to the bathroom,
Mm.
and then leave at the end of the day. And I think it's just catching those little moments when you've got them. And then, like I said, when there's emergencies or chaos or busy times, just taking a moment to chat through things with people,
Yeah,
and talk about that.
that's great. And I love that little thing of just sitting in the staff room and being present and showing them that you value your well-being
Mm,
as well as theirs. I think that's something we can all take on. I know that when I was a leader at a school, that there would be days where I wouldn't eat. So I
mm,
think that's just a
yep,
good reminder for us to try to get into that staff room during
yep,
when we can.
yeah.
So looking back on last year, what do you want to bring into 2026 as a leader, and what do you want to leave behind, if anything?
Oh, lots of great things that I learned in 2025 and looking forward to 2026. Like we just talked about, I really want to keep focus on, looking after myself and pacing myself, having stopping and having lunch.
Mm.
It's not something that I did often enough. And so I want to, make sure I'm prioritizing myself and looking after myself because as we know, teaching leadership, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we need to, pace ourselves and take care of ourselves so we don't fall apart at the end of the term and get sick and spend the holidays in bed. So learned that lesson the hard way last year with probably pushing myself too hard in the first few terms.
Mm.
And then I think for myself as a leader going into, 2026, we've got lots of exciting things that we're sort of planning and getting some really good momentum. But I think it's just staying focused on the really important stuff. I guess the non-negotiables. What are the things as a school and as leaders that we're saying that this is our core business?
Mm.
Because it's so easy to get off track. There's so many other things or competing agenda items, but really keeping our focus on no, this is the non-negotiable. This is the thing that we're
Mm.
committing to. This is the thing that we're seeing through, and really just protecting that and keeping that. No, this is the main work that we're doing because, it's like even 1 degree. Of course, when you look at a compass, you can be 1 degree off, but after a long time, like that's a huge way off from where you intended to be. And
Mm.
so I think, we want to, this is where we want to focus on at the start of the year, making sure that we really protect that. So in term for it's not like, oh, like we're so far from where we originally planned our work to be. Uh,
Mm.
and so I guess for me, that's sort of the thing for me is really just keeping focused and trying not to get distracted. Also, I guess I probably coming into a new school and a new role, I wanted to do everything for everybody. I wanted to be everyone's hero and savior.
Mm.
And I've learned that that's not good for me, but it's actually not good for them because I'm not actually empowering them. So I guess for me as a leader, I just really want to be more engaged in that coaching mentality of I'm here to support you. I'm
Mm.
not going to do the work for you, but I'm going to help you get there and asking the right questions and doing that
Mm.
because I think coming into a new role and a new school in 2025, I felt that pressure. I kind of had to prove myself. I kind of had to
Yeah.
show everyone, why they needed me. And it does in the long run that actually doesn't help people. So I guess it's less rescuing of people and doing, more of that coaching mindset.
Thank you first for being so open and honest and vulnerable about that because I think we can all relate as leaders.
Mm,
What if even if it's within the same school and getting that promotion as a leader and okay, you've got to prove to people why you were chosen and why you
yeah.
deserve the job and
Mm.
in that
And I
focus of just, yeah, yeah.
and I was gonna say, and I think it's just our nature as teachers and leaders of we just want to help people. We just want to make people's lives better.
Yeah,
And so then, we do that, but then we end up doing everything for everybody else. And in the long run, that doesn't really help them because then they go, I don't know how to do that because, Aaron's already always done it for me or Steffi's always done that.
yeah.
When Aaron and Steffi aren't there, it all falls apart because we actually
Mhm.
haven't built capacity.
Exactly right. It's about empowering, building capacity, using that coaching mindset, which speaks to me
Mm,
and what I
yeah,
what I love. But I
yeah,
also think teachers listening will really value how you're trying to protect from all the shiny new things,
mm,
focusing on what is at core and what's important, so that they can focus on implementation effectively in
yeah,
their classrooms with your support. So
yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
No worries.
How do you set your intentions for the year? Do you have any rituals, questions, or habits that help you reset?
Lots of, I guess, reflection, lots of thinking about what worked, what didn't work, lots of, thinking about, I like to make, I guess, goals, things that I want to achieve or be or do at the start of the new year. And then I kind of come to a place where I kind of have a word or words that I feel like these are things I want to, these are things that are going to guide me this year. And so for me this year, like thinking on 2025 and the lessons learned, my two things are focus, like we talked about, like keeping our focus on the things that we want to do, like doing the right work,
Mm.
focus on relationships and the things that really matter. And then kind of the second word that came along with that was for me prune, which was
Mm.
looking at keeping our focus on the things that we want to focus on, but also looking for the things that maybe no longer support the work that we're doing. And it's
Mm.
okay to prune back those things, maybe not forever, but even for a time, because when you look at nature, pruning is all about enabling better growth to happen.
Mm.
And so for me, that's kind of I like to have a word or a set of words, and then I guess from a practical sort of thing as well that helps me, especially gearing up for a new term, because like you said before, like this, we just get so many things that we want to do and we want to achieve, and we actually don't make any growth because we make things like I can't do all those things, so I do nothing. So I
Yes.
guess for me, I have like three little things, three little reflections that I like to journal, and that's start, repeat, delete, and even just starting with
Mm.
one of each, one new thing that I want to start. So like one thing that I haven't been doing that I want to try and that I want to do. Repeat is something that I have been doing that's been working well that I want to keep doing, or even this is working really well, but I could tweak it and sort of level it up a little bit by just refining it. And then delete something that really didn't serve me well or is no longer needed, or it's a bad habit that I want to get rid of. And so I like to do that at the start of the term or the beginning of a new term. Just start, repeat, delete. What's one of each, or sometimes two, where I feel like that's more manageable rather than having 1,000 things and then not
Mm.
doing any of them, if that makes sense. But it's a good little framework to, as an individual, but even as a team, even reflecting on like programs and initiatives, those three things, start, repeat, delete. It just helped, I think, make change um, and growth and shift a bit more manageable.
Yeah, I mean, I love so much of what you've just shared. I value how you were giving permission to teachers and leaders to delete, to prune, to,
Mm,
if we're going to focus on this thing and give it our all, we have to let go of some things because we can't do
yeah.
all the things.
Mm. And it's not something
Perfect.
we like to do, right? Like we like to hold
No.
on to all the things. We don't want to let anything go. And then we become kind of like, hoarders of practices and strategies. And they don't actually serve us well anymore. Like they did for a time, but for right now, what we're doing, it's actually not helpful. Um,
Yeah.
and it doesn't mean getting rid of it forever, but it's like just for right now, like I'm just going to pause on that thing because I need to focus my attention on something else.
I also wanted to ask you, how did you come to those words, your two words of the year,
Oh,
focus
yep.
and
So
prune?
I guess thinking on, the journey that we were on as a school and my context of my role and what we're doing. and sort of where we want to go in 2025. In 2026. And I think for us, we've come into the new year with some new strategies, some new things that we want to implement. And in order to do that, to see it through, because there's a lot of new things
Mm,
that we're trying to do, establish new routines and new practices across the school. It's going to just require focused attention, um, and just committing to this is the main thing that we want to focus on. For me as a leader, then my focus is on supporting those teachers to
mm,
to do that work and to do that. And it's going to mean having to say no to some things, and I'm not good at saying no to things, but having to go no, because the no is because this is what we've decided to. And I think it's to keep it front of my mind. It's okay to say no, because this is the work that we're dedicating ourselves to.
mm,
Um, that other work is good and is great, but if it's taking away from what we're really trying to commit to, then maybe it's not something we can invest in right now. And so
mm,
for me, it was really thinking about what are our big goals for this year, and what are the habits and the things that are going to serve us in being successful. That's kind of
mm.
how I came to those words.
Awesome. One of the most powerful things I heard from Miss Rachel, another very successful YouTuber for toddlers, is she said when you say no to something, you're actually saying yes to something else.
Mm, yeah,
So I thought,
absolutely.
oh, that's such a powerful way to think about things. You're not just shutting things down, you're actually opening yourself up to other possibilities and what could be
Yeah.
serving you or your community better. So,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Now, you started to talk about supporting teachers, which we're all thinking about as leaders right now. How do you think about supporting teachers at different stages of their career at the start of the year? So new teachers, experienced teachers,
Mm.
teachers, aspiring leaders.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the year, it's a lot of asking questions and listening, gauging, where teachers are at. It's like, exactly what we do in our classroom when it comes to differentiation. We spend a lot of those early days just observing, just seeing what students can do, where they're at, what they know. Um, so then I can go, oh, this is how I need to support that person.
Mm,
And I think as leaders, we fight the temptation to come in and go, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're going to do, and this is what you need to do. And we kind of put our foot on the accelerator probably a bit too soon, rather
mm,
than just sitting back. I know for me, when I came into my new school and new role last year, like that was a lot of what I did. I just sat back and I listened and I observed, and I didn't make any drastic sweeping changes because I needed to get to know where people were at. And then, the listening part of it is huge, because, you may have a teacher who, is in their early years, and often we sort of go, oh, they don't know anything. But someone in their early years, they may have so much knowledge and understanding around particular things to do with curriculum, that
mhm,
you go, actually, this person might be in their early years, but they're actually a super effective teacher in this. How do I utilize their knowledge and skills?
mm,
Same with our teachers who are, more experienced, getting to know what there is. But also, in saying that too, there could be teachers that are very experienced, but actually, say, for instance, when it comes to reading, they go, actually don't know how to teach kids to read. But we can just make that assumption that because, Steffi's been teaching for 20 plus years, she's all over that. But
mm.
it's not until we stop and listen and we ask questions about, what are you finding challenging? What's the thing that you're struggling with at the moment? That then we can differentiate our support for our teams, just like we do for our students. But that observation and that listening is such an important part of that. But it's kind of like when we come into leadership, we throw all the things we know about how to support students out the window, when actually all those things work exactly the same for adults.
Yeah, that's such a good way to think about it. How would you support your students as you're getting to know them at the start of the year? We know that everyone is so individual, has
Mm,
their own kind of goals. Same with our
yeah,
teachers. How do we
yeah,
support them based on what it is that they need?
yeah. And I think too, as leaders, it's being vulnerable enough to also have those open conversations and go,
Mm,
how are you finding my leadership? How are you finding my support? How can I better support you?
mm,
And whether you do that in conversation or you do a survey or whatever, but actually hearing it from people, Steffi, how can I better support you? What
yeah.
do you need from me?
Mm.
And being able to put pride aside and all of those things and then have an argument. I already do that for you. Just actually sitting back and openly listening to Steffi and go, okay, I hear you. I'm going to reflect on that. I may think I'm doing that, but it's all about perception. It doesn't mean I'm not doing it, but Steffi is a member of my team. She's not perceiving that the way I want her to. So I need to sit and listen to Steffi and go, what does Steffi actually need? For Steffi, what does high quality, good leadership support look like? Because I
Mm,
can't assume.
exactly right. So, in your view, what do you think teachers need most from leadership in term one, and how do you provide that support?
I think they need time and space. I think, the beginning of the year is probably the craziest time because, you're getting your class, you're settling in, you're getting routines, you're doing, all the things to set up your classroom for success. And then on top of that, you're supposed to be teaching. You've got units of work that you need to teach, and it's balancing all of those things. And so I think time and space, time to do their work. So really focusing on, I guess, how do we um, prune or put a pause on some of those things that compete with time, time out of class, time out of routine, taking up teachers' time for things that, could just be an email or, something like that, because we want to value their time and let them have the time to do their work. And I think space in the sense of just taking the pressure off a little bit without that, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this has to be done. How can we, look at all the things that are happening within our school and create a little bit of space where there isn't so much pressure? And that may mean instead of having, a weekly professional learning, that we go to fortnightly, and then we give them some planning time on the off week, some things
Mm,
that will just allow teachers a little bit more time and space to feel on top of the work that they're doing. Professional learning is so important, and something that we should be doing regularly, but perhaps at the beginning of the year, having it every week is not the best thing to serve our teachers.
mm,
We can, look at doing that later in the year where we can have some weekly professional learnings, but maybe we just scale it back a little bit in this crazy term one to just give people a little bit more time and space. It's kind of like that analogy of, you've got to go slow to go far, you
mm,
know, because if we hit the pedal too hard, we just burn people out and then we can't sustain where we're going. And
yeah.
so I think, the other thing is, like we talked about at the start, just creating that place of safety where it's judgment free, where people can be honest and open. And I think as leaders, it starts with us modeling that,
Mm,
and fighting that urge to feel like I'm the leader, so I have to have it all together. I have to have all
mm,
the answers. Or have to feel like, I've got it all together for my team. But that's actually not helpful for our team because they look at Steffi and go, I can't talk to Steffi about my problems because she doesn't struggle with anything.
yeah.
So openly going, you know what? I'm really struggling with this at the moment, or I'm having a hard time with this, or I've got so much on my mind at the moment. I had a really terrible sleep last night. And everyone's going through that. But then they hear you say it and they go, oh, me too.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's a really important part too of modeling all those things that we want to see in our teams. And I think, like I said, we talked about, just listening, openly listening, getting their feedback, and then spending some time, together as a team, just talking about how do we want to be successful as a team,
Mm,
coming up with those norms and those ways of working so that
mm.
we can all support one another in a really positive way.
I mean, you've shared so many gems in that. I think you again modeling that vulnerability and that how you value relationship.
Mm,
I think that's something that leaders, we can remind ourselves that we don't have to be these perfect beings 100% of the time because if we always have that in our mind, and I know I used to, then you
Mm,
just think if I'm not that, then I'm the worst. I'm the worst leader and I'm
yeah.
doing a bad job and everyone hates me. Whereas
Absolutely.
if we are ourselves, we're intentional, we are professional, but we're also saying, hey, I'm struggling with this,
Yeah. We're
this
normal
issue.
people
So,
too.
yeah, staying human.
Yeah.
Um, it can, I think, like you said, it would open up people to coming to you, because they know they can talk to you as a person. And those are my
Mm,
favorite leaders, the
yeah.
principals who they genuinely look me in the eye, and when I sit with them, they
Mm,
give me that attention and make me feel like I'm the most important person to them in that moment and
yeah.
what I'm going through, even though they've probably heard this 1,000 times. Like if the first time a parent, I had a really tricky parent, I didn't know how to deal with it. This
Mm,
principal from another school was just like, "How are you? Do you feel supported? Are you okay?"
mm,
Like, wow, she's not judging me or saying you should be more resilient and you should do this. And I really valued that.
yeah.
So you just reminded me of that. My favorite qualities in a leader. So thank you.
Mm.
So when the year gets urgent early, and it will, how do you protect space for thinking and relationships?
I think like we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
it's two things. It's stopping, just having those little moments of pausing throughout the day to just take a breath, being intentional about, getting up, going for a walk, take a lap around the playground, get out of that um, office space or wherever you are where it can feel like there's so much pressure. Just going and having a walk, stopping and just having lunch, but also being intentional about in our calendar, in our timetable, blocking in time to just shut the door because I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to switch off from whatever the emergency or whatever the thing is that's driving, making me feel a little bit crazy or busy, and just focus my attention on something else. So I think we
Mm.
can also protect our time intentionally through blocking out bits in our, you know, timetable or our calendars to just focus on the work that brings us joy. I'm
Yeah.
not saying do no work. I'm saying what's something that really energizes you. I'm making some time in my timetable to work on that. I'm going to put
Yeah.
the other stuff aside and just do that. But then stealing those little moments throughout the day, to get up, go to a classroom, go and say hi, you know,
Mm.
jump into the staff room for 10 minutes, sit down, have lunch, have a conversation, go for a walk in the playground, say hi to some kids. There are little things that we can do throughout the day that are really important. And then outside of a school too, it's prioritizing time for the things that energize us, whether it's having a coffee with a friend or going for a walk outside or journaling, if that's whatever your thing is. It's really, I guess, about knowing for you as a leader and as a human being, what are things that refresh you and energize you, and making time for those. And so then I feel, when we do those little things regularly, it has a big impact. Like, it doesn't seem like stopping for 10 minutes to have my lunch will make that big of a difference, or getting up and going for a walk makes that big of a difference. But when
Mm.
we have those moments of just refilling our cup, it makes, you know, the work that little bit easier. And I think, being intentional about blocking out time to go, I've got to spend some time just thinking about, ideas, generating ideas for this, project. I'm going to block out some time to do that, because it's
Mm.
easy to get through the day and go, oh, I didn't get to that at all. We all have those days. And then we feel like we do all of our work, after 3 o'clock.
Mm.
So I think it's not bad to block out some time in our calendar and go, nope, I'm working on this now. Half an hour, I'm going to have my door closed.
Yeah.
Things will be fine.
Yeah. I think that's really important. Like we timetable, you know, these things for our kids throughout the day. We need to schedule what's important to us as well. And thank you for mentioning joy and
Mm,
energy and I guess pulsing throughout the day, things that
yeah,
bring you joy and energy.
yeah, because it makes us work better, right? And then
Yeah.
we'll be able to invest into relationships better
Yeah.
because we're not running on empty.
Hmm.
It's not, it feels selfish, but it's actually better for everybody because everybody gets a better version of me. So then the relationships work better, the collaboration works better.
Yeah.
I'm in a better space for thinking because I'm not running on empty.
Yeah. Exactly right. So leaders can feel overwhelmed by all the doing at the start of the year. What advice would you give to a leader who feels that way?
I think it would be making, like, I guess, a list of the things at the moment that are making you feel really spent emotionally.
Mm,
What are those things that are really starting to make you feel drained? And also, what are things that in your work that are making you feel great? And then looking at those things, and how do we reduce some of those things that are making you feel the pressure and increase those things that are bringing you joy. And it might be around timetabling or things like that. But it's also a little bit around, I guess, some of those habits and those things that we can change. Or if we know that this thing, because I've written it out, this thing, when I have to do it, it's part of my job, but it really drains me. What
yeah.
proactive things can I put in place either before that happens, so I'm going into it a little bit better, or afterwards, so I'm refilling my tank? Because it's about, I guess, identifying those things but actually having a proactive plan about what we're going to do, instead of just going, oh, I can't change anything, my life's the worst. We literally were talking about this on the podcast this week.
Mm,
And sometimes we can buy into that mentality of, it's out of my control, I can't do anything. And there are certain things in our jobs that we can't change, we can't control. We're going to have, say, challenging conversations with parents. They're a part of our job.
mhm,
If I know that that's a real big stressor, really depletes my energy, what do I do proactively before that or afterwards?
mm,
I can't change the thing. The thing is part of the work I need to do. But what habits can I put in place to help me deal with those things better, if that makes sense?
yeah.
And there is a lot of doing. There are a lot of things that we have to do. And looking at those things that, yeah, deplete our energy, make us feel really run down, and then the things that bring us joy. And some of them, it'd be great to delete all the things that you know deplete us or stress us out, but they're a part of our job. So what can I proactively do around those things to help me manage them a little bit better? It may be blocking out some time to do something that brings me joy, or having a debrief with somebody or something
Mm,
like that, instead of keeping it all inside. Just, I guess, being more mindful of those. And I think starting with a list of those things is
yeah.
really eye opening, for you as a leader, and even just as a human being, because we all have things in our lives, times where we just feel, under the pump.
Yeah.
How do I manage that a little bit better?
I think that's a really practical strategy. And similarly, when I'm feeling overwhelmed and worried, I just make a list in my notes app on my phone
Mm,
and I write, it's my worry list, and I literally just write everything.
yeah.
And I don't judge myself. I write it down. And then when I go through it, I'm like, I can't control that. I
That's
can't do
exactly right.
anything. Or this I can control it, so I can make a
Yeah.
start on that now,
Yeah.
or I
Exactly
can
right.
do that later. So I think just getting it down on paper or on your phone,
Yeah.
you can actually, like you said, observe, listen to what it is that you actually
Hmm.
need to do,
Yeah.
rather than just bottling it all up inside and
Mm.
imploding.
Yeah. And
So,
exactly like you were saying too, it's going, yeah, there are some things out of our control, but what are the things that I can control? And I
mm,
think there's a lot, about writing it down that makes a difference. So you might write it down, you might make a list of the things that, what do I need, what's really the priority.
yeah.
I love to use the Google Keep app. It's great for
Mm,
to-do lists, but I kind of categorize them into like needs, and nice, because I can
mm,
feel like I've got so much on my plate, but really, I guess, going, these are the most important things. These are
yeah.
things that, if I got to it, it would be nice, but it's not essential. and that kind of helps to, and even like you said, just we talked about before, writing it down, but talking it out with someone, having
Yeah.
conversation, and chatting with somebody. They may not be able to solve it for you, but when we're not just carrying that burden on our shoulders alone, just
Mm,
talking it out to somebody lightens the load, takes the weight off your shoulders just that little bit more.
I think so. If it's someone who is like a vault,
Mm,
at your school or not at your school, who you trust completely, but also might help you reframe things, might give you different perspectives on your situation as well.
yeah.
It's good to talk to those people, not just the people who will be like,
Mm,
yeah, that sucks, and
absolutely.
continue
Yeah.
the whinge fest, but actually someone who might go, well, actually, from this person's perspective, they may just be seeing it like this, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
didn't think about it like that.
Yeah.
So I agree, talking it out, writing it down, great strategies. Now, to end on a bit of a fun question, if you made a leadership bucket list for 2026, what might be on it?
Cool. A leadership bucket list. Um, I guess at the end of the year, it's for me. What do I want as a leader? Obviously, I want to see growth and improvement for our students.
Hmm.
I want to know that our teams have felt supported. And I think if at the end of the year, our teams could say they're better off at the end of the year than when they started, that's a win. It's
Hmm.
for me, it's the things that I want to hear, um, in the conversations that people are having around the vibe at their school. That people love coming to work. For me, one of my philosophies has always been, that schools should be places of joy for everyone,
Yeah.
students, and for teams as well. And so that teachers love coming to work, students love coming to school. I think for me, like, that's the ultimate thing on my bucket list. I think personally, as a leader, for me, on my leadership bucket list is finish my masters. That's a goal for me for this year. So I've got two more subjects to do.
Yeah.
So that's a leadership goal for me, on my bucket list. And I think too, for me, we talked about it before, less sick days.
Hmm.
That's a leadership goal for me, because for me that shows that I am doing the things that we talked about. Like, I'm taking better care of myself.
Hmm.
I'm not burning the candle at both ends. That's a for me in my leadership. I'm focusing more on looking after myself, making sure that I'm in the best place that I can be for my team. And I think too that leadership of, like we talked about, vulnerability, being able to say, yeah, I've shared some of those harder things, and I've created that space where, you know, people feel safe. When people come into my office, it is on my leadership goal that people come into my office and they'll cry, because for me, it means I'm being the kind of leader that I said I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And it sounds funny; it'd be great to have no one cry, but actually, I
Yeah.
actually love when that happens, because for
Hmm.
me, it's a reminder that I'm creating that safe space that I said I wanted to do, because people
Yeah.
can feel like they can come in and they can close the door and we can cry it out together. So it sounds like a funny thing to have on your leadership bucket list, but I feel like every time that happens, it's a win, because we're creating the right culture that we want, where people feel safe.
Yes, exactly right.
So
I
that's a bit
love
of
that.
a weird bucket list. But yes,
No,
less
I love it.
sick
It's
days
you.
and more people crying in my office. That's my
Yeah.
bucket list.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I hope that question is one that, listeners, schools, leaders watching,
Yeah,
you have a go at answering yourself, because
yeah,
it is interesting.
it would be. Hey, what's on your leadership bucket list,
I knew you
Tiffy?
were going to ask me. I
Tell me.
mean, I
I
think
want to
it's
steal some things.
look, honestly, obviously, I want to make an impact on students
Mm,
in classrooms. Like I want that I can work with leaders, I can work with teachers, but if it's not having the impact on the kids, like I really don't. It's not for me. So
yeah.
I really, that's really number one in my mind. But glorifying busy, doing all the
Mm,
things and filling my schedule, like I really don't. I don't think busy is brings joy to me. I think it's
Mm,
more the
yeah.
impact, and I think it's more having the energy to be a mom at home, have that energy to be a good wifey as well.
Yeah. And
So
that's the hard thing about being a leader, isn't it? Because we can often give our teams and our students absolutely everything. And then we go home and our families get the leftovers or
yeah,
the not great bits, because we just give all we can to our job, but they actually need us just as much as the people that we do our job with.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mr. J, for bringing joy and energy to creating sanctuaries, reminding us to take our foot off the accelerator, to not be a hoarder of pressure and perfection,
Yeah.
to pause, observe, to listen, to model that we are human, and pulsing throughout the day things that bring us joy and energy. I hope this year you have less sick days and that more people cry in your office.
Thanks, Steffi. And thanks for inviting me on and giving me the opportunity to just chat about leadership. And I'm so grateful for you and all the work that you do supporting leaders and students as well. So keep making a difference because you are having an impact on teachers, but on students in classrooms too.
Thank you.